Okay guys, well I'm back out in the shop. It's the day after Christmas, Friday. So I'll be getting the lathe warmed up, ready to make one more cut on this. So I went ahead and set up my Fowler dial bore gauge, and I thought I would use this to go ahead and check it and measure it to see where I'm at. And I believe I needed, it was like, I thought I had said like 12 or 13 thousandths, but I went ahead and set it to 4 1/16 using my mic, 4 inches 62 thousandths. Got that dial turned a little bit too far. Okay, so that's plus 14. So that's saying I got 14 thousandths to come out. I believe I was having about a thousandths taper. That's right at it. It might be a thousandths, if that. 13. Okay. I'll just go ahead and I'm going to verify that with my telescope gauge just to make sure that we're kind of on the same page there. Okay, so that's 48. That'd be 14 thousandths. So I got my dial bore gauge set right. We need 14. I'm not going to take it all at one though, because I'm worried that I might overshoot it. We're going to take a small light cut, and then we'll check it and then adjust it. That's going to be 5 right there. Alright, 10 thousandths. Alright, we're going to go ahead and take 10 more, let it finish. And whatever it finishes on is what we'll match our bronze bushing to. Okay, That's going to be our final cut right there. Hopefully. I may come in here with my flapper and just kind of dress it and make sure that there's no high spots. Finish didn't turn out as smooth as I wanted because I wasn't running them higher RPMs. Looks to be right on it, maybe a half a thousandth off. A little bit bigger in the back. Okay, so about a thousandth. That'll be okay. You can do a little bit of polishing here on this end and maybe get another half a thousand or so out of that. Okay, I've got my bell center in there and I'm taking it off the steady rest. And the reason why I've got this set up here, I've got my compound turn on 30 degrees. I want to go ahead and make this skim cut to clean this end up, bring it down to this diameter. But I'm also going to be cutting a bevel on this end here. And the reason behind that is because my shaft that I'm going to be using is 5.5 inches. And this is 6 inches here. And if I don't do anything with this, it'll just have a sharp corner right here where the 5.5 is going to come down and butt up to it, basically. Because this is where the thrust bearing is going here. It'll come down and you'll have a step right here. So what I want to do is kind of blend it to where the chrome rod, the 5.5 inch chrome rod, when it comes down, will kind of meet at the same diameter as the tube here, and it'll just taper back to the 6 inch. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to cut a bevel or a taper or chamfer, whatever you want to call it, down here on this end. So it'll measure 5.5 inches down here on the face once I'm done with it. I can still feel a little bit there. All right, here we go. We're going to touch off on that corner. And I should have plenty of room here for my compound. Okay, that's good. I'm just taking 100,000 to pass here. Alright, so that was 300. We know we're gonna need 4. I'll make this cut and I'll make a measurement there. Alright, I'm gonna have to move my carriage down, so we're gonna leave this alone right where it sits. I got me a 0 on this indicator. I'll be able to move this down. That way I can get in here and measure. You know, I think I'm already there, really. We want 5.5, and I keep getting. We're basically there, guys. All right, so I want to make a cleanup cut. So I'm going to run back down here to my 0. Make sure there ain't no chips bind up on it. Okay, that's going to be it. I'm just going to do some filing and a little bit of polishing right there. This surface is a little bit more rough than my first one. My bore is right on where I need it to be. I went ahead and polished it. I was getting a 1/1000 taper in here, so I hit it a little bit on this end. And now we've got it probably within a 0.5 of being straight all the way down through there. So we're going to leave that alone like that, and we'll just have a very light press fit of our bushing inside there. Okay, we've got the tube on the milling machine now. I've got her clamped down, and I'm getting ready to drill and tap the cross hole where I'm going to put my T-handle. I'll show you my clamp set up there. I'm just using one of my strap clamps on both ends and just using a little tang out on the ends to hold it. Not pulling down super hard, just nice and snug. And it's laid in the T-slot there in the center. All right, I'm gonna go with a 1" 8, and I decided I'm gonna go ahead and use the taps that Demetrius sent me not too long ago, a couple months back. You know, Demetrius from Greece, and he sent me a couple sets of Narex taps. And these are the ones that I didn't realize how they were used at first. And you have 3 taps instead of a starter, plug, and bottom. This one, you see how your threads are ground. So you're shallow here. You get a little bit heavier with this one, and then this tap here will be your final cut. It'll bring it to your proper, you know, the depth. And they also have an indication here on the taps. You have a single groove, 2 grooves, and then your finish tap has no groove at all. And that's also on the box like that also. I think there's a 0, a 1, a double 0, and then nothing. So something like that indicated on the box. But so anyway, I wanted to go ahead and try those taps that Demetrius sent us. He was known as, on YouTube, he's known as Jimmy's Canal. And I'm going to use this tap handle that I bought at the flea market, the Keystone tap handle. All right, the center of our hole is 7 1/8 from the end, from the bushing in. I've already got her centered using my edge finder. I've used my hook scale and got it pointed on 7 1/8. So we're where we need to be. I just did that. So I'm going to lock it in. And we're going to go ahead and start drilling and tapping. Center drill it. I'll drill it 7/16, and then I'm going to drill it our our tap size, which is 7/8, and then we're going to use our 3 taps because I've never used those before. And for our buddy Stan, we're going to continue using the anchor lube also. Okay. All right, going with our 7/8, low gear. Had to get another countersink. That first one, I didn't realize it had a burnt spot on the flutes right on that diameter there. So it wasn't cutting. That's what it's supposed to do right there. Okay. All right, we're getting ready to start tapping now. So I've got the starter tap. I'm going to go ahead and coat her down with some of this green stuff. Put a little up in the hole there. And I'm using a spring-loaded center here to keep it centered up. And again, this is that Keystone Reamer Company tap handle that I found at the flea market. Well, gotta get back down in there. It's doing good. I think everything's working in good harmony right now. There, I just came through. Okay. I tell you what, that wasn't that hard to tap at all. Alright, we'll go ahead and run that up. With part of the threads relieved, I can see where that really made a difference on the amount of torque that it takes to spin this tap. Okay. All right, so that was the starter tap with the one groove machined in it. Now we're going to go with the middle tap, which has got 2 grooves. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and coat it down too with the anchor lube here. Straight. That's what we want, straight. All right, there it is. It's about the same amount of torque as the first tap. I didn't think it would be that much, so it's still cutting quite a bit of metal there. All right, now we're through again. So, all right, let me reset. I'll put the finish tap in there. All right, we got our finishing tap in there. And we're gonna run it through and finish them out. I gotta say, I'm really liking these. These are working quite nice. All right, there we go. Do a little cleanup. Good looking threads in there. Now that we've got our steel tube finished, I'm going to go ahead and get the bronze bushing made. So this is a full piece of bronze here. It's 3 by 4.5, and we've already got it chucked up, but haven't indicated it yet. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use our Noga, our stared indicator, and let's get her trued up. All right, that's pretty dang close there to being centered. Make sure our outer end's not kicked around. Let's check it and see if it moves. come on back to this end and make sure it's running nice and close. So we need to move it a little bit. So we're probably going to let it run just like it is. We got a lot of metal to machine off the OD of this bronze here. 4.5, so we're taking it down to 4 1/16. It's basically a 1/16 over now, so about a 1/2 inch. That's pretty good. So I got to get some tool bits set up, boring bar, facing tool, turning tool. Get all that set up, and then we'll start machining. All right, we're going to go ahead and face it off, and I thought I'd show you. This is a tool that I had ground during chip control. I'm probably going to use this one for our turning. I like using high-speed tool bits when you're machining this type of bronze, this bearing bronze, because you get a lot better chip control on how your grind is on these tools. Whenever you just use normal carbide tools like this on this bronze, it sprays bad. It sprays everywhere, and it doesn't. To me, it doesn't do as good as a hand ground bit. So we'll use our high speed for our turning. Nice smooth finish on that. All right, our bushing's going to be 6 inch long. I'm just going to go to 6 1/4 here, and that'll give me enough room to part it off. I'm trying to think, I might use my insert bar, so I'm probably going to need a little more. I'm going to go to 6 3/8, and that should be plenty there. I'll set my indicator on 0. Go ahead and make us a little line. Okay. All right, so we don't want to get too carried away with our surface speed, our RPMs, that kind of stuff. I don't want to sling them everywhere, so we'll start off, and this is how I do it. I see how it reacts. I've got a nice fresh hone tool there, and the way the chip breaker is ground, it allows the chips to softly break off of there instead of just flinging them in your face and going halfway across the shop. Well, let's see how this one does. Alright, set to 0. We're just going to do 100 to see how the chips look. Alright, that ain't too bad. I'm going to take another 100 here. Alright, see, that's not too bad. They're still gonna fly. You can put chip guards and stuff right here to help hold it. All right, we're getting down to our final finishing cuts here. What I'm going to do, we got approximately 25 thousandths to come off this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to go ahead and finish the bore out, because we don't have much to come out of the bore. Maybe a 16th or so. We'll get the bore finished and make sure that it cools down to a good ambient temp, and then we'll finish the bore. I only want, at the most I want is 1,000ths interference on this bushing. All right, we're getting this bar set up, and an easy way to set a depth on where your tool bit's going to be. So I cut the top here 6 3/8. So I'm going to set this tool bit with it's already tied in the bar, and I'm just going to move this. I've got the bar sticking out 6.5 inches. Okay, just eyeballing it there against the tool holder. That's 6.5 inches. Let me check my level. I kicked up a little. Okay, finish tightening it down. All right, so that's 6.5. So all I got to do now is come into the bore and I can use another scale here and set it 1/8 of an inch away from the face, and that'll be 6 3/8. Alright, so I got me a 0 there on my dial, and we have this 1/8 inch gap right here. All you need is just enough to clear it. The shorter the bar, the better you're off. Okay, we're going to bore this to 3 inch. So we got about 50, 60, 70 about come out of there. So I'm going to touch off and just take a light cut through there to kind of clean it up. I'm taking 50 thousandths on the dial. Alright guys, my battery is about to die on the camera here. So it's getting kind of late too. Probably going to finish this in the morning, but I'm wanting to go ahead and get a size. I'm using my longer telescope gauge here so I can kind of reach up in there. I just don't feel like setting up the dial bore gauge. I just want to see where I'm at. Somewhere around 70, 970. See, this one I can kind of reach up in there further, get an idea on it. So we've got about somewhere around 30 thousandths that I got to come out of this still. So I need to go charge my battery, and we'll come back and we'll finish it, okay? What I did is I took my tool out and I re-honed it good. Got a nice fresh edge on it. Try to leave a really smooth finish in the bronze. And I'm slowed it down. I'm running a 4,000 speed rate. Alright, we got a nice finish in there. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to mic this. I'm going gonna see what we got. Take one more cut. $9.93. I'm gonna reach up in there, get close to the back just so I can compare. All right, right there is 992 4/10. So we've got about a half, somewhere around a half a thousandths of taper. Let me get another measurement on it and see. About a half a thousandths. I'm getting 992 and a half again. So we've got about a half a thousandths taper in there. That's going to be acceptable there. So I believe what I'll do, I'm just going to dial in 10 thousandths, and that's going to be our finished size. I may get a little bit of compression here when I go to press it into the steel. So we'll take 10 thousandths, and that should put me somewhere around 3 thousandths over 3 inches. And then, like I said, we'll machine the shaft to fit it. Alright, that was my final pass on the bore. We've got a really nice smooth finish in there. Looks really good. I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and see where I hit on my final size here. I'm going to check it on both ends. Alright, that's 3, and looks like 4/10 over. See if I can get in the back and get a reading in the back there. Man, nice and straight too. All right, 3. Let's see how many tenths. For those two measurements right there, I just measured it exactly the same. So I'm just going to call that 3 thousandths over. It did a really good job. So I know I'm like 3 thousandths. All right, let me go ahead and reset, and now we're going to finish the OD. Okay, I wanted to show you my tool. This is the tool that I used. Is that piece of Rex 49, and I re-honed it. I don't know if that's blurry or not, but if you look at my cutting edge there, you can see where I honed it, and on the radius. So what I have is a very nice sharp cutting edge there, and with the radius it should leave a pretty smooth finish. Same thing on the board. It's really smooth in there. The OD isn't really that critical on that, but I'm just showing you what I do when I try to leave a really nice finish on a piece of bronze there. All right, we've got a little over 20 thousandths to come off, so I'm going to make a 10 thousandths pass down this. We'll go ahead and get the first cut going. Yeah, I touched off a little too hard there. Alright, I'm just going to zero it out. I'm going to dial in 10. I'm going to let her cut. see how the brass is, or the bronze is reacting. It's a light cut, so you're not removing very much metal, but with a carbide insert tool, if you're not using the correct insert tool, it wants to really spray hard, spray back in your face and across the machine. And I find that the hand ground tool bits work a little better. It's just personal preference for me. All right, that was our first cut there. Take a measurement here and see. 76.5. 76, so I'm still getting about a half a thousandths taper, and that's normal and to be expected when you're doing work like this on this machine. So 3, 4, 5, 6, so that's about 13 thousandths that I need to remove. I want to finish it at 4 inches 63 thousandths, and that'll give me approximately 1 thousandths press. So what I want to do here, I'm going to take 10 thousandths, make a little cut here on the end. I'm going to back off and mic it. I'd rather leave it a little bit big than to make it too small. Sixty-eight. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thousandths to go to bring it to what I want. Let's see what it looks like when I bring it back up to it. Looks like it's trying to remove about a half a thousandths there. I just dialed in 4 thousandths. See how I'm sneaking up on it? I'm hoping that this is my final cut here. And it's not, I need to dial in a little more. $65. Alright, so I'm gonna dial in 1 thousandths and I'm gonna let it cut. If it's just a little big, we'll use some emery and kind of polish it down a little bit. Alright, that was my finished cut. $64. About 2/10 under that, basically 64. So looks like I was a little bit too protective over getting it too small. I've got about 1 thousandths on it that I don't want. So I may just use some of my 220 grit emery cloth and just do a polish on it, and it should bring it down. I've got her slicked down, polished with my emery cloth, and I hit it with some Scotch-Brite, and I've got it at 4 inches 63 where I want it now. So last step before we part it off is I want to do a chamfer on this end. This will be our lead end. I'm going to press it in that direction, so we'll put a nice little 30-degree angle on that side for a lead end, so when the shaft slips down in there. And that should be good there. And I just want to break this edge. I'll use the same tool. Okay. Every once in a while, it's good to check your tool post. I have guys ask me, why do I always have my compound set on 30 degrees? Well, I have it set on 30 degrees because it's always the most convenient position when you're threading. So you don't have to check this every time. But what I like to do is with this set on 30 degrees, I like to indicate my tool square. So it's been a little while since I've done that, so I decided to go ahead and check it, and I was off quite a bit. So this is how I usually do it. I put my indicator against the tool holder, and I run this back and forth, and I basically trim it in nice and square. And that way I know that when my tools, my grooving tools and my parting tools go in, or your threading tools, that you are perfectly square to the work. So I've already got her tightened up and indicated, and that dial's moving about 1/2 thousandths from end to end right there. So we're good to part off now. Alright guys, I'm getting ready to part it off, so I'll point out a couple things. I use my Starrett digitals here. These are my 8-inch, and this is the depth that I measured from the face of the tube down to the bottom of the cut. So I was 6 inches 20 thousandths. I'm going to use this to set the length here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to back off about 5 thousandths. Okay, that's close enough right there. And I'm going to use this to set my depth, my length on the parting tool. Just like this. What you want to feel for is that touch, just like that right there. All right, see, that's going to be close enough right there. I might be 1 thousandth or 2 off, but that is good enough. Let me just double check it here. I can just feel it touching the tip of that tool. I'm gonna go ahead and set me a 0 with my indicator just in case I have to back out and move or something. All right, and then one last thing I'll point out. This is a stick of phenolic, and this is what I'm going to use to catch it. I'll put it up in there like that. When it falls off, I'll be able to, it's basically a handle so that you don't have to put your hands up here on the rotating part. I'm just going to let her power feed, but I will back out and file the edge. The parting blade has got a nice fresh hone on the corner, so it should leave a nice finish on there. Alright, let me get my file over here, and I'm going to hand file a nice lead-in angle. This is the side that'll be pressed in. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay. Alright, here we go. We'll go back in there. Go ahead and put the stick in and going to kind of hold it here. stop the feed, turn off the machine, and then you can kind of relax a little bit. So, see, there it is right there. There's the bushing, and we're getting ready to press it in, but this is our first chance that I'm actually going to get to use my Noga multi-burr here. I'm already getting my dirty fingerprints all over it, but this burr here is the one that's ground for brass and cast iron, so I want to give it a try on this parted end down here. You know, it always leaves that sharp edge that's rolled in. So let's see how it does. Pretty nice. I can tell a difference there. It's not trying to dig in as much as the other one does. It's doing good. I like it. I usually go around it 2 or 3 times, kind of changing the angle a little bit and decreasing the amount of pressure. I'm not pulling real hard. Just trying to keep it flat. Very nice. I know it's probably hard to see on video, but it did do a good job. There you can see my parting finish there. And while we're on this, let me grab my calipers. Let's see how I finished it on length. The length, it really isn't too critical. I just didn't want it sticking up above the steel tube. That was my main thing. I just wanted a little bit shorter. All right, so 6 inches 15 thousandths is what we finished it at on the length. Okay, so all right guys, it's time to put this in the hole. So let's switch up, and we'll get it kind of tapped in there and get it started, and then we're going to move everything outside to the deck press, and we'll get it pressed in there. Okay, there's kind of your first shot on what it's looking like coming together. And I put a little bit of extra polish right there on that edge to kind of help start it in there, and you know, the same way on this bushing here. Oh, it should. Yep, kind of starts in there a little bit. I'm gonna use my rawhide just to kind of get it started. Okay. Yeah, the press will get it nice and straight. That ain't too bad there. Looks pretty level. So, okay, time to take it to the press. All right, we're ready to press it. It's a very humid day outside, and as soon as I brought it out here, this thing started sweating because I run my AC in the shop, and so I was wiping off the moisture, and I've been spraying it with some WD-40 because I'm trying to keep this thing from rusting right away. So when I get back inside, I'm going to wipe it down real good again and coat it down really good with some WD or some oil or something. All right, just using a little press plate here. All right, straighten itself up. Not a real tight fit, but it's definitely a thousandths interference. Alright, I'm just about down there. I've got this aluminum plates faced on one side. I'm just going to kick it off to the side a little bit like that, so that when it pushes it down, it'll push it flush with the face of the tube here. right, there it is. Nice. All right, now to lug it back inside. There she is, man. Finally finished up. Besides welding it on, we're going to do that at a later time. That'll kind of be the last thing to do there. But I went ahead and grabbed my telescope gauge and mic because I wanted to check the bore. Remember, I was shooting for 2/1000 over 3 inches, and I give it a thousandths press. So in theory, it should have made it about 2 over. And that's what we got, guys. A couple tenths. All right, there's 2 over and 3/10. Okay. Down in there a little ways. All right, that's a little too tight. There we go. Beautiful. That's about 6/10 right there. So that worked out great. Got 2.5 thousandths clearance on the bore right there, and I'm happy with it. So I wiped it down again. That moisture outside, man, when this stuff's inside and the humidity is controlled and you go outside, it's actually really humid out. We've had a lot of rain, and that thing just started sweating immediately. I didn't even think about that until I walked out there with it. So I'm gonna rub it down with some oil again, and I'll put it back over on the base there, and we'll get one final shot of it, okay? All right, it's starting to come together, ain't it? Go ahead and pull the thrust bearing out. And by the way, I remember when I showed this the first time, I called that a roller thrust bearing, and that's actually a ball bearing thrust bearing. So it'll sit right up here like that. Hopefully with the weight of that faceplate on there, it'll have a nice smooth movement just like that, man. So that's it. So, all right, guys. Next phase is probably going to be either cleaning the faceplate up or, well, probably so. We'll start cleaning the faceplate because I need to get those threads cleaned out for the shaft that I'm going to make to screw into it. So that's probably what you'll see next. A little bit of cleaning. We'll get it all polished up, looking good, and after that, we'll go ahead and start on the shaft. Okay. Stay tuned. Thanks, guys.